This week on Rockstar Superhero.
You can see and hear raptors coming a mile away. What's most amazing is how they've figured out in this day and age to bring something new and fresh when it should have been utterly impossible to accomplish. How exactly does one invent a new sound? And just what is it about these guys? And what the heck were they thinking with that name? Well, if you even remotely enjoy rock, pop, or metal, chances are you'll love the way Raptors brings the juice. When I say they own an original sound, it's probably because they own who they are. This interview will prove my point, so I'm not going to give anything else away. But it's time for you to dive into a pool populated by 5 outrageously talented and passionate musicians. Because when you come up for air, you'll be smiling from ear to ear. This is Raptors on Rockstar Superhero.
You know, when we're little kids, we're at home, we're playing make-believe, and sometimes some of us want to be an astronaut, fireman, policeman, you get the point. And I'm curious with you guys, what was the key moment? What was the moment that everything happened for you? You said, wait a minute, I don't want to be a stuntman. I want to be a music star.
We're still working on being astronauts, really. But in all seriousness, it was early for myself. I'm sure we'll all tell you something ever so slightly different. But yeah. I think we've all been lifers on the music front. Personally, with me, I've got rocker parents, and my older brother was into all the right things. He was a grunger, so I had Alice in Chains and Nirvana from a young age. But then my parents were like big into like Def Leppard and Queen and Guns N' Roses. So I used to watch those videos as a kid, and I was like, I like this a lot. And then as soon as I actually went to my first show, that was it. So I went to see Incubus.
Oh my God.
At a really young age. And then literally a couple of weeks later, it was just a really crazy time for being it. I'm from a tiny place in Wales. So nothing much really was coming through. But then within like a few months, Incubus played, and then Slipknot played. And that was it. After watching straight after Slipknot, I was like rib breakingly. I was on the barrier. I was probably only about this tall on the barrier. And the sound check was like literally hurt. I can almost still feel the drum sound check, and it was penetrating my ribs. And I was like, I need to be doing this every day. And enter this man.
Yeah, so I've been playing drums since I was about 10, and then when I was about 11, maybe 12, my parents took me to see Iron Maiden.
Oh,
so
good Lord.
The story to side, my parents brought me up on Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Rainbow, all that kind of stuff. I remember being sat way high up in the stand seeing Iron Maiden, trying to see Nico McBrain like behind this monster kit. I was like, I want to be.
You can never see that guy. You can never see him back there.
That guy, and that was it.
Wow. You guys? Anybody else?
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of had to, in terms of like family already listening to cool music, I kind of had to claw my own way into decent music because they were not listening to us. My dad had a Kerrang CD in the car, but that was about as far as it went. But yeah, I feel like I just wanted to be cool, so I bought a bass, and then people told me that wasn't cool. So here I am.
Hey, don't let anybody get you down. I'm a drummer myself, and the bass player is probably the most important and underappreciated member of the band.
That's what I keep telling these guys.
I don't know.
Yeah. He's the glue that keeps us together.
Okay. For me, I started out as a singer. I was like, it was quite good until my bollocks dropped, and then I was like, can't do that. So I started playing guitar. I mean, I sing backing vocals now, but
sure.
It took a while for me to like craft it and like get relatively all right. Just like guitar, really. I should have carried on doing both, but guitar kind of took over. And yeah, I mean, yeah, the first band I went to go see was Trivium and Annihilator.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it, like, actually, that tour was mental. It was Trivium, Annihilator, Gojira, and Sanctity. And obviously, and after that, for me, I was like, yeah, okay, I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to be on stage playing guitar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I have to apologize because I always hate asking the influence question, but you kind of ask it a different way. Maybe you get a couple of different responses. It's nice to hear from the band. The thing that I love about you guys, and the thing that I've discovered, maybe is a better way to put it, is that my experience as a listener to your sound is clearly you mix genres, style, tone. And, it's interesting that you mentioned Queen because I'm a lot older than you guys, okay? So I was listening to jazz when it came out in 1978 when I was in high school. You know what I'm saying? And so I've been influenced by a very diverse musical landscape / palette my whole life. And I love bands like yourselves because there's a purity in trying what most won't do simply because of the fearlessness, the ferocity that's required to not be easily categorized. So my question, I guess, would be, how do you maintain that diverse approach when the world, with all of this content, is telling you have to be a specific thing so we can sign you to a label, we can manage you, we can control your work, we can put you on tour? How do you do it?
Really, it's going in with no boundaries and being really prepared to get those questions and to you're going to come up with hurdles, but it's having a true belief in music and being like actual music fans. It goes a long way because it is a world where everyone likes a category. It makes things a lot easier for people. Sure. But we're more of a pain in the ass than that, and we're happy to be so. And because we grew up with different styles of music, and because we listen to stuff, like we don't just listen to metal. We might listen to metal in the morning, and I might want like a chill out vibe, or I might want a classical piano vibe in the afternoon. We with our attention spans want to be able to do it all, so we're always excited about making music. We have no limits. We don't have to have that conversation of, oh, well, that's not really that doesn't sound like a Rxptrs song. Like, that doesn't exist.
And I think we just want to be so genuinely us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The category is irrelevant. We just want to do what we want to do. And
that's bang on the money. Like, if you feel like, like, say, for instance, if Matt feels like he wants to do like a sort of Tama Motown sort of beat, and it has the backdrop of a riff that is heavy, and we make it work, why shouldn't we make it work?
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's times when that definitely doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of being a creative. You get to test drive ideas, and when there's an entire group of people on the same page who are willing to step out on a limb, I mean, there's the only thing that's left for you guys is something extraordinary. And for us as listeners and consumers, holy crap, man, you changed the game. Because as much as I love something, let's say metalcore, right? Give it a pure category. I admit I get tired of, the whole loud, soft, or verse chorus drop, or, the sort of the predictability of a genre or a microgenre. So I like the fact that you mix it because you guys have created a potpourri.
Yeah, love that. I've never had a potpourri reference before. Yeah,
that's the next album, man. Potpourri and Cornucopia.
Yeah, that's the album artwork already sorted as well. We'll just have a little photo, some potpourri sorted. It's like, as you say, like it's like it's a mood thing. It's we want to cover things, but also like we want, especially with this album, we wanted it to be as human as possible, as well as it being genuinely us. We wanted to get that across, like what makes us us. And the human element is you're not always angry. Like sometimes we're insanely angry, but that passes, and the next time we might be suffering from some grief, or we might have just been to a party. We might be hungover as hell. Like we want to like demonstrate those emotions and everything that we feel as humans. We want to portray and put that into music so people can feel that journey, as opposed to, I mean, if we were just angry all the time, we would put out maybe the angry EP or something. Yeah. But like as it stands, and in the 2 years that we've had, we've gone through a whole spectrum of feelings and emotions and incidents and accidents and life. That's it. That is, we've been through it, and we know everyone has been through it. These 2 years have been absolutely chaotic, crazy, and also had lulls. Like, so we wanted to portray that in the album, and that to do that we had to kind of forget genres.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the new album. I mean, that's why we're here, man. We're gonna talk about the cornucopia of Living Without Death's Permission, right? That's the name of the album, correct?
That is right. Yeah, Living Without Death's Permission.
Okay. So comes out next month, from everything I've read. I've heard a few tracks. Obviously, it's a golden experience, and I mean, your voice is kinetic. I don't want to just talk about you, though. I mean, I want to talk obviously about the whole band and the experience. But for me, like one of the things I'm so curious about is the songwriting experience as a band, whether it comes in, in pieces, if the band writes in the studio, which, I mean, granted, this is not 1986. We're not Genesis and renting a recording studio for a year and paying $4 million. But, I mean, you would if you could, though, right? I mean,
you know what? It's not that far off that, like we've got that old school mentality. And I think that's what brings our sound and our dynamics is we've got this room. We are blessed. In this room, it might be crumbling around us, but it's yours. It's our crumbling room, and we are lucky enough to have a lockup and to have our stuff here permanently. We have keys, so we got 24/7 access. And for the years since we've been active, since 2018, this is our second home. So a lot of our music, everything that we've put out previously, was all born here. Obviously, with lockdown, we did get a few curveballs thrown in for many months during our writing time. So we did adapt to it. We had to adapt to it quickly. So it did change around the kind of dynamics this time round. So we did. We live together. So. Okay. So this made things a little bit easier.
For sure.
So we would come up with ideas, and we'd come up with the scraps of ideas, beginnings of ideas, and demo that at home, send it to Sam, send it to Ian, and we kind of piece together things that way. And the inspiration comes from all over, though. It's never one formula. It could come from a riff. Quite often it would come from a riff, or it could come from a melody. There's songs that came from drum beats, right, and working through that way and structuring it upwards. So there's never any set rule on exactly how it goes.
Gotcha. So I'm curious because of my own sort of approach, and granted, again, I'm a lot older. So I mean, I grew up in a world where everything was to tape, right? And it was just a matter of pass-throughs and recording over and over and layering, and a big pain in the ass. But there was a lot of rehearsal, because you kind of had, right, everything was one take. You had very, very tight shots to get things right. But as a band, especially as a newer band, what's your favorite part of the process? Is it the storytelling of the song, or is it the world building of the song?
Ooh. We'll have a workaround. I've got my favorite bits, but let's all.
I like the journey from like having like the initial idea and then having faith that idea will, and like that vision to be able to say this idea will become something great and grander and bigger than like that in itself. So like the end product, or the piece of music at the end, when it's listened to or sung back or whatever, like when people connect with it, that for me is kind of the biggest part.
Nice.
Like, it takes on a different life.
Yeah, nice. Guys?
You go.
I've got. So,
I love the storytelling. That is my favorite. But like I love being involved in all, like music and building it. But once we've got like an emotion, it might start with the emotion, or it would usually be once it's formed, then I can tell the story. And writing those lyrics, particularly this time around, because I had so much more time in the cage that was locked down in the house, it felt like I could go into so much depth, and I did drive myself absolutely insane while doing it. But it was a good kind of insane. It was staying up for days at a time, being able to play with sleep deprivation.
No heroin involved at all.
Yeah,
just joking. Very Alice in Chains,
We're not going to go too many spoilers there. Cut that.
Oh my God, Ambien is my friend. Yeah, this is wonderful.
It was a nice time of experimentation and being able to have enough time to really, really self-reflect and to go over everything with a fine-tooth comb. I don't think I've thrown away so many songs. Like, I quite often like to write something as a whole, scrap it, and then start again in order to kind of refine it. But Matt's laughing now because he knows
that's self-deprecating. No, it's not good enough. Start again.
Yeah, and this time it was just insane. The amount of times I come out and be like, "Yeah, I've got the song
literally
nailed."
Day after day, we're going, right, I've got this song, it's done. Next day, right, I've done this song again, it's done. You did that yesterday. Yeah, I did it again.
Yeah, but that's the beauty. I mean, that's the beauty of performing, right? It's not, first of all, there's nothing that's done, right? We're all seeking. Yeah. We'll never be satisfied. And that's kind of, I always joke, that's the artist's dilemma. We are so screwed as humans. I'm like, serious, God, you had to program me like this because I'm a maniac. But, you mentioned a second ago, self-deprecating. And, I think what draws me to the music, and I think why Rxptrs has taken off so quickly, why there's buzz and there's energy behind you guys, is because people can read between the lines. It's kind of like, how like when you come home and you're in a bad mood and you slam the door and everybody, besides the door slamming, everybody knows like something's wrong, something's off. They can feel your energy, right? And what I love about humans is we have an ability to discern. And what makes Rxptrs so completely badass is that humor that's in between the lines. It's pure, it's sincere, it rocks, but there's this sort of jaded thumb your nose at the world. We're going after it. We're going to make fools of ourselves, and you're going to have to deal with it. And, like the video for Rock Bottom as a Stepping Stone is a perfect example of bonkers. And it's amazing. And there's no question here. I just want to say it's awesome.
Man, we're happy. Yeah, you carry on. This is great feeling. This is what we do right now. This, you've nailed it on the head as well. I'm glad that comes across. Is that we tackle this such serious things going on in the world, and this so much that happens in life and what everyone's seeing. But like, if we're so serious about everything, like you will go insane. Like it's not that it's not a serious situation, but there's takes to have on it, and sometimes you've gotta like poke that bear, and you've gotta have fun with it. And and some things are just farcical. Like that is just the flat out. There's no way of putting it. And that again was the process of writing, and quite often why I was scrapping songs, because things were just like plain angry, and I was getting into a circle of just rage, and then I just like I find myself funnier with the more and more angry. If I get a step back of myself, I'm like, oh, calm down, dude.
Right.
Like,
don't take yourself so serious.
And I can see myself. I'll like come out of my body, and I'll be like, come on, you're just a guy in a room scribbling down angry thoughts.
And that of the world, and everyone should listen to it.
Yeah, and everybody's heard it a million times on top of it, right?
This is the thing as well, and at the end of the day, it's personality that I want to show. If we were just writing completely serious songs, that wouldn't necessarily actually be what we're who we are. Yeah. We believe in these things, we believe in these causes, but there's ways of communicating that, and the same way as we would communicate it in a bar. Like we always discuss the world, and we're discussing things, but we're not always just sitting in an angry corner. Like this is how we communicate, and we like to put that into the music as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about you guys though is you're a visual band. And you figured that out, because so many artists, and I was one of those 30 years ago, I thought it was all about the technique and the musicianship, and ooh, look at me and my ability to play 64th notes and all these silly things, right? The snobbery of artistry and creation. And you guys have figured it out. And somebody once said to me years ago, and of course it's stuck, and you probably know this already, but I didn't know when I was younger. They say, nobody goes to hear a band. They go to see a band. And you know what? I'm sure live it's the same thing. But that video, right? If you close your eyes, that music is great. It's catchy. Your voice is what's the word? Wild and unabandoned, right? I mean, there's a bonkers quality to what you guys do in general. But when you couple that with the visuals, you're releasing a pure, whole, complete product, right? It's been condensed into this Raptors vibe, whatever the hell that is. And people love that, right? I mean, that's what they're attracted to. So I have to ask this question. This might be more Simon-centric, but when you dream about being in the business when you're a kid, and you're here now, and all this buzz and energy is happening, and then you go on stage, was there a complete holy crap moment where you're like, wait a minute, I am not prepared to do this here, right? Like not stage fright, but just the whole overwhelming, holy crap, this feels way different than I expected it.
In a nutshell, no. Like,
awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever felt it. Like there's little bits of nerves, but always I am exactly where I want to be. Like with shows and approach in every single show, even if it's in a dive bar, if it is on a main stage of a festival, or playing alongside some of the bands that we grew up listening to, which we've done like in the last year. It's always the same. It's the same show. I'll put in exactly the same amount of energy. It might be put into a different zone, because it might be playing into a fraction of people as opposed to playing in front of 1,000 people. But it's still I want everyone however many people are there, to have that same feeling of connection and to be entertained, and that yeah, there's never ever question that in any way. And I could say that hand on heart, absolutely, honestly. It's every single show I go through my same routines, and from the first note, it's all in. So yeah, never ever have that. Never ever have that monologue.
Yeah. Well, what do they say? Luck is being prepared for a moment that meets you. Right. Like you just have to be ready. If you love something, you're going to go after it. And the thing that I know is regardless of people watching this video when it's released, the people that listen to my show, there's, a fair amount of them. Right. And I know that they're going to be listening to this conversation and they're going to say, I can tell. Right? You can tell the vibe in that room. You guys standing there, you guys are into it. You're into each other. You're into what you're creating. You're excited about what's in front of you. And just the fact that you've already, in this very short period of time, have shared the stage, freaking main stages with some of the biggest bands in the world is, you're living the dream. Most people don't get to do that, man. And you guys you mentioned it, blessed. And I'm so stoked and happy for you. This is just badass.
Thank you, man. It's, and like, as you say, like, whether it's with huger bands, or if we in the early days, we'd be playing like smaller places. The fact that there are people coming to see you, whether it's 300, 3,000, or 3.
Yeah.
And believe me, on the way up, that has happened. I remember one specific one. And
wow, that's a tough one, man.
This was a town that we hadn't even heard of. It's a tiny town in Wales. And we were like, we weren't sure why we were going there, but it was one of those tours that it's clearly been booked in. But the fact that it was somewhere we don't know, no one has any connection with yet, a handful of people turned up, and then there were a couple of drunk people strolled in. They had the best time ever, and one of those people who came to that show has been to pretty much every show since.
Wow.
So like, that's why you've still got to do the best show that you can possibly do, even in those situations. And we had an awesome time. I think we had the smallest circle pit in the world in that tiny little
two guys walking in.
Two drunk guys stumbling around.
Yeah, they didn't even know they were a circle pit, but I was taking that.
That's awesome. I could just see that show with the one guy. He he's drunk. He walks over to look at the bill on the wall and goes, "So the band is called Dr. Peters?"
Yeah.
So I have to ask that question. I know it's been asked a million times. Why Rxptrs? I get it, Raptors. I get it, but what's the breakdown? Because it's probably going right over my head.
It's probably correct to be going over there. The name itself came from a long discussion, and in fact a book that I've still got at home of names that we came up with when we were deciding. And basically we'd written a couple of songs, and then we were like, okay, we've got a handful of songs, we want to hit the road. We had an opportunity to go on a support tour pretty much immediately. So we were like, right, we've got to come up with a name. We've got to come up with branding immediately. So we had to think, and we drove ourselves mad for a few days and wrote a full book, pages and pages and pages of names. And it came down to the fact that we didn't have one particular sound. We came up with loads of good names, and they were like philosophical, and they were like, oh, this is really clever, or this is like a full sentence that's like poetic and really cool. But each one, when you said it painted a picture of, oh, maybe that's a melodic hardcore, or maybe that sounds like a flat out metal band. And we were like at our wits' end, and it literally came down to, we like dinosaurs, and we're a pack. And that
yes. Well, I have to. So I'm going to interrupt you for a second, because that's a great answer. But I have to say this because after listening to the music and then, of course, reading up on you guys, so I was prepared for today, and then having this discussion, it's very clear that you guys are eccentrics. And the beauty of being eccentric is right, the mishmash of accidents and ideas, and again using the word bonkers, it's bonkers, and it makes sense that you guys would go, you know what, screw you guys, we're gonna have an unpronounceable name, we're gonna tell you how to pronounce it, we're gonna put it in parentheses, but that's only for a while, and eventually you'll hear about us on television, for example, and it also makes sense from the songwriting point of view because you have all these different stylistic approaches. I mean, why not have the R version, the X version, the P version, the T? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. It can't be contained because what that word itself might mean to someone else, it's going to be completely different to the next person.
Yeah.
From the start, we were like, there's no boundary, there's no limit here. And it became a mentality as well, because like we have always been a family for the best parts of family and the worst parts of family. We fight like a family, but we love each other like a family, and that kind of became the Raptor mentality. So it's been quite becoming.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense, man. I mean, you're artists first and foremost, and I know, as an example, I know I've said this a couple times today, but we get a bad rap because if you're not an artist, people don't understand that, like, when we got downloaded, right, when we were made, however we were made, right, like, I mean, like, this is not a religious discussion right now, but like if God made me, he made me totally freaking weird, right? And I love who I am, but I know, for example, if I talk to my uncle, he doesn't get me. I mean, he doesn't kind of get me. And honestly, he probably only remotely likes me / loves me because I'm blood, not because I'm interesting or right. Just nothing about us makes sense. Yeah. And I think artistry is a tricky conceit because of it, So I have to ask this question. This is something I like to ask of everybody, but I'm going to do it a different way with you guys. Is we spend our lives, working on our skills. We're constantly on the move to, upgrade and to become better songwriters and better performers and better friends and brothers. And oftentimes, if not all the time, I mean, we have imposter syndrome. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people do. They really struggle with who they are, and feelings always get in the way. I mean, but I felt like this, and people were like, I don't care. It sucks. You know what I mean? And so now that Rxptrs is really taking off, does it feel like things are advancing with the band? I mean, clearly they are. I know the answer to this already, but are you wondering, is there going to be a moment when I feel like I'm finally in my purpose? Like, am I famous, or am I wealthy, or am I influential? So how does it feel to be in the band at this moment?
I think we keep each other pretty grounded. I don't think I can't imagine us getting to a point where we would ever feel complete. Unless we were like, I don't know, bloated and on a lilo in a pool somewhere with like people feeding us drink.
And even then,
but I genuinely think for the most part, 1, through banter, 2, through if someone steps out of line, we're pretty quick to get, and that's because we're at our best when we're switched on, and I think people who can get to that point of thinking, okay, we're there now, that's where you can get complacent. And I think from seeing that at first hand with people and hearing stories of it on the big scale, I think like having the ego death of being in this group is the best way to be creative. Like, as you say, we're eccentric enough. But like, if it was one person going off in any particular direction, it would be like, get back on the life raft.
I definitely.
I definitely. Well, see if you guys agree with that.
Speaking for everybody. Well, let me say this then. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if anybody else had anything to contribute. Go for it. Jump in.
Absolutely 100% agreeing. That was all.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, you said it a second ago that, being in a band, I mean, you're married, man. I mean, right? I mean, that's, and again, as an outsider, most people don't understand the difficulty. They look at people like yourselves and they say, oh, I see them on stage. To me, they're entertaining me. To their celebrity, which is totally bizarre. There's this sort of belief that you transcend and become somebody else simply because you're standing on stage and entertaining. It's a very, very strange thing. But you guys all have to go home and deal with each other. You have to deal with each other as songwriters and as mates. And right. And then, when life intrudes and, somebody divorces somebody or right, somebody marries somebody or whatever, then there's always the Yoko Ono thing that's happening. And that's a tough one because somebody loves somebody. And now you got to deal with, that outlier that is now sort of indirectly influencing what you do. So one of my favorite thoughts about the artist's dilemma is self-destructive behavior. And I can't imagine you guys with as positive as you certainly seem to be. And I don't think you're putting it on. Do you have self-destructive moments where you kind of let things get away from you at times simply because you're an artist and you don't know how to contain your emotion?
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, that's all part of the human element.
Yeah, passion.
We have our out of control moments. I think the album actually covers like a few of those times, and previous songs that we've written about do cover those things. And as much as we are one and we're always there for each other, you still sometimes it's a good thing to let go and to go there, and because if you're imploding, then I think that can be even worse than exploding and letting it out or going on a binge or having that time where you are unhinged. Like sometimes you need to be unhinged, especially as an artist. I think you need to go those places, and as dark as they are or as chaotic or self-destructive as they are, we've got your friends and you've got your family around us, and we've got a great group of friends and colleagues who can make they're your safety net. But you still got to walk the tightrope, kind of thing. It's we've definitely had those moments. We've all had those moments in the last couple of years as well. So some darker than others, some just we need to. I can speak for myself here. I'm sure I can speak for the other guys as well. It's just sometimes you need to go on a few days of a bender, and I feel like it's a release. But yeah, we know we've always got each other to fall back on if things go too wild.
Yeah. What would it take for you guys to feel like you've accomplished the thing? And I know that's a strange question, but let me explain. I'm friends with Rudy Sarzo, the bass player from Quiet Riot. Okay, and I would love to play with him. I've never played with him, and one of my jokes with my friends is I know I'll made it when I'm standing on the stage, and I said, you guys got to get behind me and take a shot of me playing drums, Rudy up there, and then the crowd out there. Then I'll know I've made it. Even if it's a tiny room, it's just a chance to play with a legend and my friend, right? And is there a moment that you visualize in your head that says we've done it? Because you guys have played the festivals, and I know this is kind of a tandem question to what I asked before, but when's that moment when you've achieved the thing at least you hoped you would achieve, if that makes sense? I don't know.
I get the question, but I personally just want everything. I want
it all.
all at once.
Yeah.
I think personally, I would say it would be. I mean, I think the most tangible thing would be to be headlining those bigger festivals, those ones that we're only in the whispers of at the moment.
Yeah.
I think long-term goal, there's a lot of stepping stones to there, but I think that would be my pinnacle is being the headline band.
Yeah. Well, it's going to happen. I mean, does anybody else have an answer to that, by the way?
I got an answer to that because I agree. I do agree with, there's these high goals that say you've made it, but I feel like a part of me already thinks I have because I'll always remember playing a show in Bristol and this little dude on the front row playing air drums to one of the Rxptrs songs. I'm like,
there you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
Is that it? That was cool.
But Matt, I mean, you've made it because you're on my show. but seriously, there's a funny thing. Look, I'm kind of being facetious, but I'm kind of not. And not because of me, but because you're in a position right now, all of you are in a position where people like myself, who are admittedly recent discoveries, it's becoming overwhelming. There's this beautiful thing that's happening, this great energy where people are talking because they can't explain what you do. It goes back to the Queen thing. I don't know what it is, but it is. And that is so completely badass. And you get to live that moment. Whether it lasts your whole life or it's just, say the next couple of years, you get to look back and say, I did the thing. It goes back to what we were just talking about. And so many people never get that. They, not to knock anybody who's a cook or a janitor or a garbage man or policeman or whatever. And hopefully they're passionate about it. But you guys get to be in the middle of the passion. And that is freaking badass.
Yeah, to be
That's
fair,
very true.
I guess for me, realistically, in hindsight, looking back at 15-year-old me, my dream was get signed, play guitar in a band, get signed to either Roadrunner, Nuclear Blast, or Metal Blade.
Yeah.
Now it's like, yeah, okay, cool.
It's like I thought we've made it almost 3 or 4 times over at this point. It's like we made it to a point.
There's always like,
and then we'll just why stop there? Let's set our sights on the next one up.
Yeah.
The thing evolves.
Yeah. You have
Well, and Sam just said it too, because I mean, when you think about so many other people who wish they were in your position, right? There's always somebody that wishes they were you, that they may never get to this level, but they'll be grateful to get to step 1, and you guys are step 4, step 5. I mean, once you have management, once you start getting a lot of attention worldwide, something special is happening. And I mean, again, I know I need to mention it one more time, but that new record, man, it's really special. You guys are special, and it's been an absolutely badass experience to have you here today, because I needed this for my soul too,
Oh man.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
I want my whole life to be called special. So
well,
I'm calling you special every day.